Chronotype, the natural inclination toward morning or evening activity, plays a significant role in how the body responds to meal timing, fasting protocols, and overall nutrition. Individuals can generally be categorized as morning larks, who feel most alert and active earlier in the day, or night owls, who reach peak energy later in the evening. These intrinsic circadian preferences influence hormone secretion, metabolism, appetite, and even nutrient utilization, meaning that the timing of food intake can have markedly different effects depending on an individual's biological clock. Understanding chronotype can therefore help tailor meal schedules, intermittent fasting, and dietary strategies for optimal metabolic health, energy, and long-term well-being. Morning larks tend to wake early, experience higher cortisol and insulin sensitivity in the morning, and naturally have an appetite earlier in the day. For these individuals, consuming the bulk of calories in the morning or early afternoon aligns with both behavioral patterns and metabolic rhythms. Breakfast becomes particularly important, as larks efficiently process carbohydrates and protein due to heightened insulin responsiveness and thermogenic activity in the early hours. Studies suggest that morning-oriented eaters benefit more from front-loaded calories, showing improved postprandial glucose handling, stable energy levels, and enhanced fat oxidation. Time-restricted eating protocols that confine food intake to the early day, for example, an 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. window, often produce favorable metabolic outcomes in morning types, including better insulin sensitivity and reduced risk factors for metabolic syndrome. For morning larks, skipping breakfast or delaying eating can create a mismatch between energy intake and peak metabolic efficiency, leading to increased hunger later in the day, irregular glucose responses, and potential overconsumption at lunch or dinner. Night owls, in contrast, typically wake later, experience delayed peaks in alertness and energy, and often have lower insulin sensitivity in the morning. Their natural rhythms favor later activity and, in many cases, a later appetite, which can make early morning eating less appealing and metabolically suboptimal. Research indicates that when night owls are forced to adopt early eating schedules, they may experience impaired glucose tolerance, lower thermogenic response, and increased morning fatigue. For these individuals, aligning meals with their later circadian peaks, while still maintaining a reasonable daily eating window, can enhance nutrient utilization, reduce insulin spikes, and improve adherence to fasting protocols. For example, a late breakfast or brunch around 10 to 11 a.m., followed by a dinner eaten earlier in the evening, may better match a night owl's metabolic rhythms than forcing a traditional 7 to 9 a.m. breakfast. Intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating strategies also interact differently with chronotype. Morning larks often find it easier to maintain early feeding windows, as their natural wakefulness and appetite coincide with the start of the day. Night owls, however, may struggle with early cutoffs, experiencing hunger or low energy in the evening if fasting windows are too restrictive. Adapting fasting protocols to chronotype, such as delaying the start of the feeding window for night owls or advancing it for larks, can maximize adherence and preserve metabolic benefits, including stable glucose, enhanced fat oxidation, and improved circadian alignment. Evidence suggests that mismatched feeding windows can reduce the efficiency of fasting-induced benefits and may even disrupt sleep-wake patterns if they conflict with the individual's natural rhythms. Chronotype also affects behavioral and lifestyle factors that interact with nutrition. Morning larks generally engage in physical activity earlier in the day, which synergizes with early eating to improve insulin sensitivity, fat oxidation, and energy utilization. Night owls, conversely, may prefer evening workouts, which can still be effective for metabolism but may need to be timed carefully to avoid interfering with sleep onset or late-night eating. Light exposure, hydration, and social routines further influence the alignment between chronotype, meal timing, and metabolic efficiency, underscoring the importance of a personalized approach to nutrition rather than a one-size-fits-all schedule. From a practical perspective, understanding chronotype allows for more individualized and effective dietary planning. Morning larks can benefit from structured early meals, front-loaded calories, and earlier fasting windows, while night owls may require flexible eating times that start later and gradually wind down before bedtime to maintain circadian alignment. Both types should focus on nutrient-dense foods, balanced macronutrient intake, and consistent meal patterns within their respective windows to optimize energy, metabolism, and long-term health. Integrating chronotype awareness with other lifestyle factors such as sleep hygiene, exercise timing, and light exposure creates a synergistic framework that maximizes metabolic outcomes and overall well-being. In conclusion, chronotype significantly shapes the body's response to meal timing and fasting protocols. Morning larks thrive on early feeding schedules that align with peak insulin sensitivity and thermogenesis, while night owls benefit from later meals and adjusted fasting windows that respect delayed circadian rhythms. By tailoring nutrition strategies to individual chronotypes, it is possible to enhance glucose regulation, fat metabolism, energy levels, and adherence to healthy routines, demonstrating that the timing of meals is most effective when it works in harmony with the body's intrinsic biological clock.